The most powerful voice in Cleveland sports just said what every single Browns fan has been screaming for months, and the shockwaves are still reverberating through the entire organization. Tony Rizzo, the legendary radio host who has seen every heartbreak, every false start, every crushing disappointment in Cleveland sports history, just went nuclear on Kevin Stefanski, and he didn't hold back one single punch. This isn't about being patient anymore. This isn't about giving coaches the benefit of the doubt. This is about accountability, wasted opportunities, and a question that's going to haunt the Browns for years. Why the hell wasn't Shedeur Sanders starting from week 1? Because here's what just happened in Las Vegas, and here's why it has Tony Rizzo and the entire city of Cleveland absolutely furious. Shedeur Sanders walked onto an NFL field for his first career start and didn't just manage the game or avoid mistakes. He brought something the Browns haven't had all season: energy, explosiveness, and actual competent quarterback play. He made throws that had Pete Carroll praising his arm talent. He engineered drives that put the Browns up 14-3 at halftime. He gave the defense something they've been desperately begging for all year: a lead to play with. And that elite, championship-caliber defense that's been suffocating all season? They responded with 10 sacks. 10. Not a typo, not an exaggeration. 10 sacks in a single game because they finally had a quarterback who could give them something to work with on the other side of the ball. Myles Garrett and the entire defensive unit weren't just playing football. They were celebrating, energized, engaged in ways we haven't seen all season. Why? Because their offense actually scored points. Because their quarterback actually made plays. Because for the first time in months, they got to play football the way it's supposed to be played. With a lead, with confidence, with the ability to pin their ears back and attack. Tony Rizzo watched all of this unfold, and his reaction wasn't celebration. It was rage. Justified, righteous rage at the realization of what could have been, what should have been, what would have been if Kevin Stefanski had just made the obvious call months ago. How many wins did this cost the Browns? How many games did this defense keep competitive only to watch the offense sputter and die? How many times did Myles Garrett and company play their hearts out with absolutely nothing to show for it, because the quarterback position was a revolving door of incompetence? Let's establish something right now that the media keeps trying to dance around. The Cleveland Browns have one of the best defenses in the National Football League. Period. Full stop. No debate. This isn't a good defense. This isn't a solid defense. This is an elite, game-wrecking, opposition-destroying defense that would be leading a playoff team if they had even mediocre quarterback play. They've been keeping the Browns in games all season, despite getting absolutely no help from the offense. They've been playing championship-level football while watching their teammates on the other side of the ball look completely lost. And then Shedeur Sanders shows up. First NFL start, road game in Las Vegas, rookie making his debut, and what happens? The Browns jump out to a 14-3 halftime lead. When was the last time Cleveland had a lead like that at halftime? When was the last time the offense actually put points on the board early and gave the defense room to breathe? Rizzo asked that question, and nobody could answer it because it's been so long that fans literally can't remember. That halftime lead changed everything. It changed the entire dynamic of the game. It changed how the defense could attack. It changed the energy in the stadium and on the sideline. Suddenly, Myles Garrett and company weren't playing desperate football trying to keep the score respectable. They were playing aggressive, confident, attacking football because their quarterback had given them the luxury of a cushion. And they responded with one of the most dominant defensive performances of the entire season. But here's what has Tony Rizzo absolutely livid, and here's what should have every Browns fan demanding answers. Shedeur Sanders was sitting right there the entire time. He was on the roster. He was ready to play. He was preparing, studying, waiting for his opportunity. And Kevin Stefanski decided to start literally anyone else. Retreads who couldn't move the ball, veterans who were clearly past their prime, quarterbacks who had no business being in starting lineups. Meanwhile, the kid who could actually play was riding the bench watching this team waste one of the best defensive seasons in franchise history. Pete Carroll, a Super Bowl winning coach who's seen everything in this league, watched Shedeur's debut and specifically called out that deep shot to Jerry Jeudy. He said it set the tone for the entire game. That wasn't a checkdown. That wasn't a safe throw. That was a quarterback with confidence in his arm talent, taking a legitimate shot downfield and connecting. When was the last time Browns fans saw their quarterback make a throw like that? When was the last time the offense actually attacked vertically instead of settling for 3-yard passes and praying for yards after catch? The energy on that sideline told you everything you needed to know. This wasn't just another game. This wasn't business as usual. Players were engaged in ways they haven't been all season. The offense had life. The defense was fired up. Special teams made big plays. Everything clicked because the quarterback position finally wasn't a liability. It was actually productive. It was actually helping the team win instead of actively sabotaging victory. And now everyone in Cleveland is doing the same math Tony Rizzo is doing. If Shedeur Sanders had started week 1, how many more wins would the Browns have right now? 5, 6, 7? With that defense playing at this level and even competent quarterback play, the Browns would be in playoff position. They'd be competing for the division. They'd be relevant in January instead of playing out the string in December. That's not speculation. That's not hindsight being 2020. That's reality, based on what we just watched. Shedeur Sanders came in and immediately made this offense functional. He made throws. He avoided sacks. He managed the game while still taking shots when they were there. He did everything Kevin Stefanski should have known he could do if he'd just given him the opportunity from the beginning. The media keeps pushing this narrative that Cleveland will still draft a quarterback next year, that Shedeur is just a temporary solution, a bridge to the real answer, and Rizzo is calling that out for the absolute nonsense it is. Why would you draft another quarterback when the one you just put on the field looks like he can legitimately be your franchise guy? Why would you waste another high draft pick at the position when Shedeur Sanders just proved he belongs? You don't draft a quarterback after watching a kid come in and energize your entire team. You don't spend valuable resources at a position where you already have the answer. That's organizational malpractice. That's the kind of decision that keeps franchises stuck in mediocrity for decades. And Browns fans have suffered through enough bad decisions to recognize one when they see it coming. Here's what makes this situation even more infuriating. The Browns aren't starting from scratch. They have pieces in place. They have an elite defense. They have weapons on offense. They have coaching and infrastructure. What they didn't have was quarterback play. And instead of solving that problem with the player already on their roster, they wasted months cycling through options that everyone could see weren't working. Kevin Stefanski made a decision to not start Shedeur Sanders from day one. And that decision cost this team wins. Real, actual wins that matter in the standings and playoff races. Games where the defense played well enough to win, but got no support. Games that were winnable with even average quarterback play. All of those losses sit squarely on Stefanski's shoulders because he had the answer and refused to use it. The comparison to what we're seeing now versus what we saw earlier in the season is stark and undeniable. Early in the year, the Browns' offense was unwatchable. Drives went nowhere. The quarterback looked scared. Nothing worked. The defense would hold opponents to manageable point totals, and the offense would respond with 3 and outs. It was painful, frustrating football that had fans turning off games in disgust. Now, the Browns are fun again. Rizzo said it himself. The team is cool again. Fans are requesting suite tickets. Jersey sales are spiking. The stadium is going to be absolutely packed for Shedeur's first home start because everyone wants to see what this kid can do. There's genuine excitement around this team for the first time in years. Not hope based on potential or promises, but actual tangible excitement based on what they just witnessed on the field. And all of that energy, all of that excitement, all of those potential wins could have been there from September. If Stefanski had just trusted what everyone else could see, if he'd given Shedeur the opportunity from the beginning, the Browns would be in completely different position right now. Instead of fighting for relevance, they'd be fighting for playoffs. Instead of moral victories, they'd be stacking actual victories. Instead of wondering what could have been, they'd be celebrating what is. The schedule ahead isn't easy. San Francisco this week with a defense that's going to test every single thing Shedeur learned in college and in his first NFL game. But that's exactly what everyone wants to see. Can he handle a real defense? Can he progress from week 1 to week 2? Can he prove that Las Vegas wasn't a fluke, but rather a preview of what's coming? Because if Shedeur Sanders goes out there and continues to play like he played against the Raiders, if he shows growth and poise against a quality opponent, then Kevin Stefanski is going to have some very serious, very uncomfortable questions to answer. He's going to have to explain why this kid sat on the bench while the season slipped away. He's going to have to account for all those losses where the defense did their job and the offense failed. He's going to have to justify decisions that cost this franchise wins and potentially playoff positioning. Tony Rizzo isn't letting this go, and Browns fans aren't letting it go either. The accountability that's been missing in Cleveland for years is finally being demanded. No more excuses. No more benefit of the doubt. No more accepting mediocrity because, well, at least we tried. The Browns had a quarterback who could play, and they didn't use him. That's not bad luck. That's not unfortunate circumstances. That's a coaching decision that backfired spectacularly. The energy shift is real and undeniable. Players who looked defeated and frustrated early in the season suddenly look engaged and energized. The defense that's been carrying this team all year suddenly has help. The stadium that's been half empty with apathetic fans is going to be rocking because people actually want to watch this team again. All because the quarterback position is finally being handled by someone who can actually play the position at an NFL level. Myles Garrett's reaction on the sideline during that game spoke volumes. He wasn't just happy they were winning. He was genuinely excited, genuinely engaged in ways we haven't seen from him all season. Why? Because his offense finally gave him something to work with. Because his quarterback made plays that allowed the defense to play their style of football. Because for the first time all year, he got to experience what it's like to play for a functional football team instead of just trying to keep games close. The criticism of Stefanski isn't about being mean or piling on. It's about accountability. It's about demanding that coaches make decisions based on what gives their team the best chance to win, not what's safe or comfortable or politically expedient within the organization. Shedeur Sanders gave the Browns the best chance to win, and that was apparent to everyone except apparently the coaching staff. That's a problem that needs to be addressed directly and honestly. The national media is starting to pick up on this story too. It's not just Cleveland homers asking these questions anymore. Analysts around the league are wondering the same things Tony Rizzo is wondering. How did the Browns waste this defense? Why wasn't Shedeur playing earlier? What could this team have accomplished with competent quarterback play from the beginning? Those aren't comfortable questions for Stefanski or the organization, but they're necessary questions that deserve real answers. The next 6 games are absolutely critical not just for Shedeur Sanders but for the entire future of this franchise. If he continues to play well, if he shows he can handle adversity and grow from game to game, then the Browns have their quarterback. No draft pick needed. No free agent pursuit necessary. Just develop the player you already have and build around him. But if Stefanski reverts to conservative coaching at the first sign of trouble, if he pulls Shedeur after one bad game, if he goes back to playing scared, then maybe the problem isn't the quarterback position at all. Maybe the problem is the coaching. Tony Rizzo's frustration represents every Browns fan who's watched this team snatch defeat from the jaws of victory year after year after year. They're tired of moral victories. They're tired of, well, at least we competed. They're tired of watching elite defensive talent get wasted because the offense can't function. And now that they've seen what's possible with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback, they're furious that it took this long to happen. The Browns are at a crossroads. They can either commit fully to Shedeur Sanders, support his development, and build around the talent they already have, or they can continue to waffle, continue to hedge their bets, continue to make conservative decisions that lead to mediocre results. One path leads to relevance and potential playoff football. The other path leads to more of the same disappointment Cleveland has suffered through for decades. Rizzo wants answers. Browns fans want answers. And honestly, everyone watching from the outside wants answers too. Because what happened in Las Vegas wasn't just a rookie winning his first start. It was evidence of a massive coaching mistake that cost a team with playoff talent multiple wins. That's not something that can just be brushed aside or explained away with coach speak about development timelines and patience. The stadium is going to be electric for Shedeur's home debut. Fans are excited in ways they haven't been in years. The team has energy and confidence. The defense is playing at an elite level. Everything is pointing in the right direction. But none of it erases the question that's going to hang over Kevin Stefanski for the rest of this season and potentially beyond. Why didn't you start Shedeur Sanders sooner? And how many wins did your decision cost this franchise? That's the question Tony Rizzo is demanding an answer to. That's the question Browns fans deserve an answer to. And that's the question that's going to define how we evaluate Kevin Stefanski's tenure in Cleveland moving forward. Because the evidence is clear. The Browns had their answer at quarterback, and they wasted half a season refusing to use him. That's not acceptable. That's not defendable. And it's absolutely not something that should be forgotten just because things are finally working now. The Browns are fun again. The Browns are relevant again. Shedeur Sanders made that happen. The only question left is whether the coaching staff and front office are smart enough to recognize what they have and commit to it fully, or whether they're going to fumble away another opportunity like they've done so many times before. Cleveland sports fans have seen this movie before, and they're desperately hoping for a different ending this time. If you made it this far, you know exactly why Tony Rizzo is furious and why every Browns fan should be demanding accountability from this coaching staff. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on how many wins Stefanski cost this team by not starting Shedeur sooner. Hit that like button if you agree that the Browns finally have their quarterback and need to commit to him fully. And subscribe, because this story is far from over. Shedeur Sanders is just getting started, and we're going to cover every single game, every development, and every moment of what could finally be the beginning of something special in Cleveland. The wait is over. The quarterback is here. Now it's time to see what the Browns do with this opportunity they almost wasted completely. Peace out.